Hello and welcome to a special series of Blocktalk, which we're calling Blocktalk Explores. These quick listen episodes will be split by topic area, as our guests, who are all industry leaders in Scotland, will be discussing three specific industry topics. Topic number one is education and awareness of the industry and what property factors do. Number two is recruitment within the industry and any challenges that they see. And the third one is customer care. We'll release 2 episodes in week 1, and the third will be released the following week. We hope you enjoy the series, and as always, it would be great to hear your feedback. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Blocktalk podcast. So we've got a special series going just now called Blocktalk Explores. So in this episode, we're going to talk to Andrew Bulmer about customer care. I'm not going to give Andrew's bio, so he needs no introduction. He's a prominent figure in the property management for many years and is now serving as CEO of the Property Institute. Okay, right, moving on to customer service then. How is customer service changing? What's your view on that?
I think to a large extent we've covered it. I mean, customer service, it's the expectation, go back to the iPhone example, it's that expectation of simplicity.
Yeah.
Don't really want you to communicate with me except when I want something. Other than that, tell me something interesting and I might be amused, but I'm getting so much noise from so many other media sources that really you're going to have to be interesting if you want to communicate with me. It's going to have to grab my attention. Other than that, kind of stay out of the way. Let me know if you need something or if I need to do a thing. So it's then it's the speed of comms, and again the expectation. Now already people used to chatbots where you just get an instant response. So speed and simplicity of comms, accuracy of comms, and those it's things like if you order a parcel from Amazon. You can track it. You can see where the van is. It's 8 stops away and it's heading my way.
Yeah.
Why can't we have that? The bin store. I've just reported in the bin store's full of rubbish. Okay, well, the contractor is now 6 stops away, or the contractor will be with you 8:30 to 10:30 tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
That's all software and service standards and having a supply chain of contractors that are operating within that tech environment. And that again will come. The tracking of contractors and what have you, it all comes now off a mobile phone. There's no reason why this can't be done. It comes down to the cost of implementation.
Yeah.
And the cost of implementation for those kind of things is getting lower. AI will certainly fast track the ability to implement that because it can write its own code, it can write its own functionality.
Yeah.
And that will provide the information. So, I've reported the door handles bust, when it's the customer knows when it's going to be fixed. That stops the incoming call. Yeah. Customer service perception goes through the roof.
Yeah.
And makes life a much better place for a building manager.
No, I agree with that. We have a product in CPL called Blockworks, and it links the property manager with the contractors. And the roadmap for that from an AI point of view is just huge. Yeah. And because, everything else is actually already there. The basis of the product to tell the client when someone's going to be there. So if you could actually just use the AI element to cause that communication between those two entities to happen better and to provide more information, then that can only give customer service better.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of talk about AI. The reality is AI is one of those overnight successes that's taken about 30 years to get here.
Exactly.
It's all it is just increasingly sophisticated stuff, but it's the ability for it to write its own code and to interpret information and then to make its own decisions. That's the game changer, which means that we will start to see more intelligent tech stacks. Where you've got the various different components being linked together more elegantly.
Yeah, no, without doubt. I mean, writing about a sequel to do X, Y, Z is very good at. Yeah. So, okay. So, we might have covered this as well, but I'll ask you, what do you view as the biggest challenge in providing a good customer service?
I think that there's, I'll give you the classic one, then I'll give you a novel one. We have, to a large extent, I think, covered communication, and it is about communication. If the lift can't be fixed because some component's on back order from Italy and it's just not going to be here for 2 weeks, then it's communication, and in that case also amelioration. Well, what can you do to make sure that Mrs. Miggins on the 12th floor is still going to get her Tesco delivery because she can't use the stairs? So there's a piece around that. I think there's also a piece around the. I think it comes back to the trust. If you have a suspicious relationship between the customer and that service provider, the building manager, the factor, then pretty much whatever they say, they're already sunk. Well, it's going to be 2 weeks before your lift gets fixed.
Yeah.
Well, why is it 2 weeks? Is that because you can't be bothered? Whereas if there's a trusted relationship, then it's going to be 2 weeks before. Oh, right, okay, we can't do any better than that. Nope. Okay, well, that's what it is. Then we'll have to suffer it. That comes down in large part to the trust, and trust is built around a number of components. Obviously, things like demonstrable competence, behaviours, that communication piece that goes into it. But there is a slightly more sinister side, which I think is about unconscious bias, who it is that's saying that. If you, I often reflect on this as a silver fox. Occasionally, I've been brought into difficult conversations, and because I've been around a bit and I've got grey hair and I'm a white male, then people often will say, oh, "Okay, well, if he says that, then it must be true." If you wheel in a sort of a 20-year-old who's young and enthusiastic, they don't necessarily have that same experience that I have, and they're not necessarily perceived to have the same gravitas. So there's a piece about equipping what is a relatively youthful profession, to have that, to support that, the delivery of confidence, both within the individual and then that confidence then to the consumer. Ultimately, that does come back to communication, but I think it's a specific challenge within communication.
No, I don't disagree with that. I mean, many startups get a non-exec on their board with grey hair because you need some grey hair in the boardroom, basically. Because they feel as if that person can then give gravitas in front of banks, investors, all of these sort of things. I think it happens the world over.
It depends who the audience is. The thing is that the reason you bring a Ned on is because you're talking to a bank, and the bank is likely to be somebody that's more mature.
Yeah.
If you've got a 20-year-old talking to a 20-year-old, they'll hit it off. But it's unlikely that the 20-year-old owns their own flat.
Yeah.
So the person that is providing the service often is not yet on the property market themselves.
Yeah.
And therefore their customer is generally of a different generation. So there's a generational gap. There's an economic gap and a generational gap. And that means that when they're looking across the metaphoric table, the virtual table at each other, they don't necessarily they're not necessarily perceived to have a sort of an equal standing. So there's a challenge piece around that.
Yeah.
But just coming back to your analogy of the bright young things bringing on a Ned, I suspect that the Ned rarely has a clue what it is that the bright young things are doing, because the bright young things are way ahead. They just need to figure a way of cheating the system.
So no, I don't disagree with that in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. Okay. So last question on customer service, and I guess this happens in the property industry a huge amount. So difficult conversations happen. They have to happen sometimes, and it's just life. How do you manage those, and how do you help, or how do your employees cope with them?
If that's difficult conversations within the staff team, I rarely need them. Because bluntly, my team are fantastic. I think if you do, you've got to be very transparent and very honest and very fair.
Yeah.
And I think it's about humanity.
Yeah.
It's about humanity, isn't it? That's really the really the piece. This is we're occasionally you'll get a difficult individual, but I think mostly they're few and far between. And if you do, then it's about being kind.
Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. And what about back when before this sort of role for you, when you had your own business in this market? What about then? Do you feel the same about? Do you think about it the same about it then?
Yes, I did. I did have one difficult conversation with the gentleman who was helping himself to petty cash.
Oh,
that was a slightly more robust one. That was along the lines of, well, this is a video of you stealing my money, and this is another video of you from a different angle stealing my money. So I'd probably like my money back, please, and I'll be driving you home now because I need my van. So that was a relatively robust one, but again, even then, it's not about histrionics. You know, he made a prat of himself and done a silly thing, and it was a shame.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, and I think you have to approach these things with values and with how your culture is built around it as well. I've got a challenge at the moment where something's happened with a bit of technology, and there's a third party involved, and I'm trying to source an alternative third party. But what I've found is that the deal that my clients actually have at the moment is pretty good. So I went to this company and I said, look, this is what my clients are paying at the moment. This is what I need. This is the challenge. And I had a telephone call with this guy. And then I said, right, okay, so can you tell me your pricing so I can go back to them? And he's like, and I started getting these really, really short answers back. And the last one went, well, what the bloody hell is going on here? Do they want this for free as well? And I just sent him back an email and said, thank you very much for all of your time. I'll go and source a solution elsewhere. Because quite frankly, and this may come back to shoot me in the foot, I don't want to do business with people like that. People who aren't going to give, and it comes down to something I've talked about actually on this podcast. EBS, equal business stature. Okay, whoever you are in life, you should respect the other person you're talking to in business. I mean, you should in your personal life as well. And it's something, and we use it a lot to kind of make sure that our team don't feel as if, oh, the customer. No, I'm sorry, this is a business relationship, and people should have an equal standing in that relationship. And I guess if you get to the point where you can choose who to do business with, then you choose not to do business with people who don't think the same as you do. I know, slightly off topic.
It comes back onto topic. At the moment, there's a lot of M&A going on, mergers and acquisitions going on with firms, and we're starting to move towards the sort of a coffee shop model. You've either got Starbucks and Costa, the huge empires, or you've got the little local one. The ones in the middle are either growing to be snapped up, or they're growing and snapping up to become one of the bigger. But it's busy at the moment, and there is a temptation, because businesses are sold to some extent on turnover. There's a temptation to keep difficult estates that perhaps aren't very good business, and they obviously mop up a lot of effort. So there's a trend often to keep that business when it's not, the relationships aren't good. And that can become quite harmful for the staff and the team and the morale. But increasingly what I'm seeing now are where firms will say, well, actually, do you know what, the relationship's not great here. So you're probably best off, making a fresh relationship and having a fresh clean sheet start over with somebody else, and moving on. So it's probably best that we, arrange a nice handover and part the ways. And I'm pleased to see that. I'm pleased to see that, because that again starts to reset the relationships. We're here together. We're here to make a team. It's a thing that actually on the health and safety side, I'm conscious we're getting out of time, but the health and safety side. So health and safety executives, they've put in this new regime, South Asia Wall, and one of the things is that residents are able to complain if they don't feel that their building is being looked after safely. And that's right, because we all remember the guy in Granville who kept raising concerns and he was ignored. And that can't be allowed to happen. That's clearly bonkers. But the HSE portal, it's about how do you complain.
Right.
And I'd just like to kind of reset that a little bit, really. It should be about a resident raising a concern.
Yeah.
If the concern will get addressed, then it's a complaint, absolutely. Yeah. But if it's to be a sort of a team effort, isn't it? Residents are the eyes on the ground, and you phone in to say that there's something you're not happy about. Well, thanks for being the eye on the ground, and we'll look into it. That's not a complaint. That's teamwork.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sometimes use of language around this can be improved as well, and that's being led by government and lawyers and taking a legalistic approach to it, which is inherently confrontational. And I think as a profession, as an industry, we can do better than that with our communications.
Yeah, and it is. You're right. It's about, and if that relationship has broken down and is getting to a kind of toxic level, why would you keep that relationship going? So you're right about coming back to the kind of view about your property, the company looking after your block or whatever, and your property. I do know that there's been a significant amount of acquisition in Scotland. Is it the same in south of Havering Wall as well?
At least the same, possibly more.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So and you're right, because that brings you're joining different cultures together. I mean, it's a whole different conversation.
It presents a number of other opportunities as well, doesn't it? Because the bigger companies then will have deeper pockets in which to invest in technology.
Well, and they will want to do that because of efficiency as well.
Yeah. So I think I think we live in an amazing industry. It's changing hugely. I love the fact that it's becoming more humane. It's becoming more people focused, more customer focused. I love the fact that we're moving beyond customer service being, answer the phone within 3 rings and smile. It's now about empathy. It's about relationships. I love seeing the focus on that. I think that the technology piece coming in is going to be hugely exciting.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic time to be in the industry. My goodness, it's got its challenges, but it's great.
Yeah, and from a point of view of a supplier into that industry as well. I mean, it is. That's why our development team has grown. It's doubled in the last 3-4 months, and I'll tell you something. Our revenues have certainly not doubled in the last 3 or 4 months. So we're reinvesting a huge amount of money in how to take advantage of everything.
Yeah, likewise.
So one final question for you then. Tell us something about you that people are generally surprised to find out.
That's a left one. How about the fact that I'm a bell ringer? I'm a campanologist.
Okay. Don't you eat what you call a bell ringer? What's it called?
Church bells.
No. You had a name for it. What was it?
Campanologist.
Campanologist. I've never heard that phrase before in my entire life.
It's known as change ringing, and it's not like the Mars advert. You don't just yank on a rope. It's rather more sophisticated and mathematical than that, and you try not to go up with the rope. But it's great physical exercise. It's not as hard as you might think, but the big bell in my local tower is thick under 3/4 of a ton. You've got a Mark 1 Ford Fiesta swinging around on the end of a rope. And placing that so it rings at the right time is good fun. So and I think there's a nice analogy there. It's really, really corny, but I'm going with it. So we're ringing the changes.
Okay, fabulous. That's a great way to end. Thank you. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for coming on.
It's been a blast. Thank you.